Front row, just like it's cool. Just leave it.
Good for you. Good evening. Welcome to the special meeting of Florence City Council. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carroll,
Present.
Ms. Chambers. Here. Mr. Nguyen,
Here.
Ms. Kemper,
Here.
Ms. Wingo. Here. Mr. Osborne.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have before you the approval for the minutes of the Tuesday, October 17th meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Wingo? Second, Mr. Nguyen. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the oath of office. Chief Brown, while I'm heading that way, if you could introduce our newest officer.
Sure will. Thank you, Mayor. Logan, do you want to come on up? I'll make you stand out in front of everybody up here. So tonight we'll be swearing in Logan DeLauder. Logan's 24 years old, currently resides in Walton, Kentucky. He's a 2017 graduate of Ryle High School. After graduating high school, Logan attended NKU, where he received a Bachelor of Arts degree in Organizational Leadership. Prior to us hiring Logan, he was working at Fidelity Investments. We're excited to be adding Logan to our department, and he's leaving for the academy this Sunday, November 12th.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, so long as you are a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully execute to the best of your ability the office of police officer for the city of Florence, Kentucky, for the city of Florence according to law? And do you further solemnly swear that since the adoption of the Constitution, you being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within the state nor out of it, nor have you sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, or have you acted as a second in carrying a challenge, or aided or assisted any person thus offended? Congratulations. You wouldn't mind introducing anybody you have with you here tonight?
Start off with my wife Anna, her grandma Barb, my father-in-law Kyle, her in-law Christina, my mom, her, my grandpa, grandpa-in-law, brother-in-law's girlfriend, my brother-in-law, my sister, my grandma, Mike and Donna, my parents' best friends and their daughter, my other father-in-law, their daughter, my sister-in-law, and my other mother-in-law. And up to the side, I have my cousin-in-law and his girlfriend, and then I have my
We're all related.
I'll be your uncle, that's great. Tell me what you want though.
in-law, and then my niece-in-law.
Yeah, niece.
And then my grandma-in-law, and then other sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and their kid, and then my
I have 6 kids, so I understand big families. All right, we're going to come up here to take a picture.
Let's move it. Yeah.
And any family that wants to come up. Well, I'm glad you brought all the family, because we do have quite a family here in the city of Florence. We consider our employees as part of our extended family, and so thank you all for sharing your son, cousin-in-law, whatever, with us. We really do appreciate it. We do have quite an agenda, so we're gonna switch gears. Feel free to mosey on and celebrate as a family if you need to. All right, next up is John Chamberlain from Chamberlain Owen. Certified Public Accountants are auditors.
I was so excited to see the large crowd for the audit report. But alas, no. Good evening, my name is John Chamberlain. I'm a CPA and partner at Chamberlain Owen and Company, and we are specialists in governmental auditing and accounting, and our office is in Erlanger. And we do appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys here in the city of Florence. I want to thank the mayor and Linda, especially Linda, and her staff for being great hosts and for taking care of us and providing us with everything that we need. We're pretty pesky when we're here, so we do appreciate you providing us. And I would be remiss to say that you don't understand the treasure you have in Linda Chapman. Even if you know, you don't know, because there are very few cities in northern Kentucky where your finance director prepares your annual consolidated financial report. I think there's 3, and you're one of them, and maybe one or 2 others who could but don't. And so you have a real treasure in Linda, and then she can do that for the city. Let's hit the financial statements first. Our audit opinion is the first thing. I'm driving. The audit opinion is that the financial statements are fairly presented. This means that there are no modifications required. It's what's called an unmodified opinion, no modifications required of the financial statements, and that they fairly present your financial position of the city of Florence. Works so well. As part of every governmental audit, we do a review of internal controls and to make sure your riskiest assets are protected, and make sure you have appropriate segregation of duties. And we saw no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in your internal controls that were required to report. We also do a review of compliance. That would be compliance with any bond debt and with loans, with your CRS payments, contributions that you make as part of your pension program. And so we have no issues of non-compliance to report as well. You did expend about $2.7 million in federal, or $2.8 million in federal funds. 2.7 of that was through the American Rescue Plan Act. And that required something a little different this year, in that you got an examination agreement, step down from the uniform guidance audit that we would normally do for that much federal expenditures. And so we did that, and we have no instances of non-compliance with uniform guidance requirements over the expenditure of federal funds to report as well. So just what we would expect. I did provide to each of you, or Linda provided to each of you, a copy of the governance letter. And this is I'm going to call it a boilerplate letter. Just gives us the opportunity as auditors, it's a required letter, and it gives us the opportunity as an auditor to speak directly to you as the city council, let you know if there's you're taking egregious accounting positions or things like that. And we made no audit adjustments, again, a testament to Linda and her staff. No disagreements with management or difficulties performing the audit. You do have significant accounting estimates for depreciation and CERS, as noted in that letter. And then we also provided no management comments to the city.
And just for clarification, CERS is the retirement system.
CERS is, I'm sorry, thank you very much. CERS is your pension, your county employee retirement system, and that's your pension and your OPEB for your retirement. This graph here is the last 5 years, and it shows your assets, unrestricted cash comparison across the entire government. Cash decreased about $6.8 million in 2023, down from about 125,000 to 125 million to 118 million this year. Investments decreased about 585,000 in 2023, or I'm sorry, increased about $585,000. And if you remember, the market was lower in 2022, so your investments, just by virtue of the market going up, increased about $585,000. The GFOA provides a rule of thumb to have 3 to 6 months of operating cash on hand, so a minimum of 3 months across both the business and governmental type activities of the city would be about 16.2 million. We obviously have 118 million, about 22 months of cash on hand to do the business of the city. So you have you're in a fantastic cash position. About 110 million of that is in governmental activities, about 7.6 in your business type activities. The next slide is just debt across all types for the city. The red is your long-term debt. Really only about $1.8 million in long-term debt left. Paid off about $750,000 during the year. The orange is your pension liability, pension and OPEB liabilities. You can see that increased about $8.5 million from last year. It's important to remember that one of the major components of your pension liabilities is how the market that the pension funds are invested in, how that performs. And so these are measured at June 30th of 2022, so they're a year late, basically. And so that's where they're measured. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, 2022, if you remember, at June 30th, would have been a terrible time in the market. So your pension liability would have expanded dramatically during that time. So 2023 a little better. Next year, you might level off next year. It should be interesting to see. Those numbers won't come out till about March. The yellow is current liabilities, down about 4.1 million, and that's due to the deferred revenue that you had for your American Rescue Plan Act. You had it as a deferred revenue last year. You had recognized that this year, and so that decreased as part of that. Revenues versus expenditures, these are just for governmental funds. $59 million in expenditures, that's the red line, that's slightly above that green line right there at the end. The revenues in are 58 million, expenditures out 59 million. So expenditures exceeded revenues by about $714,000 compared to about a $5.8 million net income in the prior year. Revenues by function, again, total revenues of $58.5 million, about a 10.8% increase or $5.7 million over the prior year. Licenses and permits up about 13%, $3.6 million increase. That's made up primarily of payroll taxes, which increased about $2.4 million, and business and occupational license fees up about $500,000. Charges for services up about $229,000, about 3% increase, mainly from EMS billing, about almost $290,000 in EMS billing over the prior year. And then intergovernmental down significantly, as you can see there. It was 2.7 million in 2023 compared to, or 4 million in the prior year. Interest revenue, that's the winner in the whole shebang there. It increased about $1.1 million strictly from interest rates going up in your bank accounts. If you remember last year, 0.35, something like that. Now they're about 4.5%. So that's the interest, the effect of the interest rate on the accounts. Expenditures by department, all governmental fund, total expenditures of 59 million, about a 26% increase in expenditures over the prior year. That's about a $12.2 million increase. Police, about a $1.2 million increase, primarily from salaries and the hazardous duty related pension expense. Fire department, a $4 million increase, primarily from $2.1 million in 2 fire vehicles, fire trucks, and about a $1.5 million increase in salaries and pension. And then public services, they're the big winner, about a $10 million increase, mainly due to the $2.7 million stadium project, $2.7 million Main Street parking projects, Kentucky 18 overpass, about $1.2 million, and a $1.8 million property purchase. And then debt service has decreased. It was about, you paid off the ballpark loan last year, so that debt service decreased significantly this year. These next few slides are just really interesting because it just shows each department's expenditures over the last 6 years. So you see how much they vary. They're don't always, just increase, there's some ebb and flow to all the different departments. Kind of flip through. Fire department, a lot of times will be based on capital purchases. Same for public services. This slide is revenues versus expenditures for your business type activities. Expenditures almost always outpass revenues in the business activities. See expenditures of 15.6 million, that's the blue line, the purple line is the revenue at 15.2 million.
Is that reversed?
No, revenues, expenditures outpace revenues.
Okay.
Expenditures are higher. And the main reason for that really is depreciation expense. There's about $1.8 million in what's called non-cash depreciation in the business type activities. So when you actually look at the financial statements, you can see that if you back that number out, there's actually a net income, definitely in water sewer, and a smaller loss in forest schools. Next slide is revenues by function. This is for your proprietary funds. Again, $15.2 million, 11% increase, which is about a $1.5 million increase that costs your proprietary funds. Really, the golf course is the significant mover here. The water were just standard rate increases and things like that. So nothing strange there. The golf course, about an $800,000 increase, and you see driving range fees up about $310,000, food, alcohol sales, $315,000 increase, greens, cart fees, miniature golf ball increase. So the investments that you made in that last year have started to see some fruition back with the revenues coming in the door. Water also had meter installations, tap-in fees increases that were pretty significant as well. Expenditures across the proprietary funds, right at 15.6 million, again about a 6.3% increase. And the lion's share of the expenditure increase also in the golf course, which makes perfect sense with food and beverage wages, about $284,000. Cost of goods sold for your food and alcohol sales and that type of thing. And non-cash depreciation also increased by $122,000. So because you built a cruise facility there. Do you have any questions on the financial statements? I don't normally do a lot of detail in the financial statements unless you want me to. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you. What my question is this year unusual compared with the fire department's percentage, 40%, and then the police was 12%?
Yeah, I would say so. And Linda, you could probably address that better than I
Yeah,
can.
we did. We actually did some advanced purchases for the ambulance and the fire pumper because of the lag time in getting those items in. So we actually bumped the capital vehicle purchases up a year. We did the same thing for public services as well.
So would that equipment roll over to the new stations being built?
I can't answer that.
Yes, sir, it will.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, there's quite a lag time I've seen this in all of our cities.
Right.
Quite a lag time in equipment for ambulances, fire trucks, police cars. People are having to buy them almost a year out.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I would just like to thank Linda.
Oh, absolutely.
Again,
Thank
she
you.
does a great job with this. People don't realize what all is involved, and we are very, very fortunate to have her. Linda, thank you.
She works tirelessly on compiling all of the information and tracking it and submitting it in a report that is coherent, and I just really hats off to Linda. All right, next item, I'd like to call Laura Plyman to go to the podium to present the Homelessness Task Force information.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for having me here tonight. Excited to get to share this information with your group here. We had an opportunity to share this with the Boone County Caucus, with the fiscal court about a month or so ago. And so wanted to provide the opportunity to do the same here to your body. And it's really exciting work that Florence has been on the ground floor with. Pat Wingo started as a representative at the time when our work started forming. So really excited to get to share this with you tonight. I'll start with a little bit of history of the task force. So our task force formed in early 2019 at the request of Judge Executive Gary Moore and then Mayor Diane Whalen to further discuss issues around homelessness throughout the county. Our task force is comprised of a variety of representatives from the county and city of Florence, library, sheriff, and school officials, and nonprofit organizations with extensive expertise servicing the homeless community. Our task force was charged to better understand who experienced homelessness in the county, what resources are available to meet the breadth of their needs, and provide guidance on addressing these issues and service gaps. We approached the work as an opportunity for the county and city to be proactive in meeting the needs of the homeless population rather than being forced to be reactive. Our first work involved conducting a survey of available resources within our community, including programs ranging from rental and utility assistance to emergency shelter to permanent housing supports and ultimately independent attainable housing. Understanding what resources were available both within the county and also within our region allowed us to assess where gaps may be. Our review showed while there were programs operating to provide those homeless prevention services such as emergency rental and utility assistance, assisted housing vouchers, the county was lacking in emergency sheltering, transitional housing, and attainable housing. At the same time that we conducted the resource assessment, our nonprofit partners engaged in the first ever B Count, or Boone County Count, which was modeled in part after the annual nationwide homeless count. For 2 weeks in October of 2019, representatives from Brighton Center and Welcome House surveyed individuals in the community experiencing homelessness. The B Count differed from the annual HUD count in that our partners looked for both those who were experiencing unsheltered and sheltered homelessness. Our 2019 B Count results showed 115 individuals experiencing homelessness at the time, 40 unsheltered, and 75 sheltered. Of our unsheltered, for the majority, it was not the first time they had experienced homelessness, and nearly 40% were classified as chronically homeless at that time. 25 to 30% had a history of substance abuse or mental illness. Notably, in our sheltered population, we had children that were included. For 82% of that sheltered group, it was their first time experiencing homelessness, and 61% had an income. For both populations, assistance accessing housing was a top requested service. While our task force explored the depth of the problem and resources available within our community, a subgroup explored national models around emergency weather sheltering plans with the objective of safeguarding the lives of vulnerable individuals experiencing homelessness by providing shelter during extreme inclement weather conditions. The task force designed a framework for an emergency weather sheltering plan which would coordinate public and private resources to maximize benefits within the county and within our community. Then, of course, COVID happened. During the initial COVID closures, it became clear that the impacts of reduced access to hygiene facilities would have a critical impact on the population experiencing unsheltered homelessness within the county. Facilities typically available for toileting and hand washing, shower and laundry services were suddenly no longer available for these individuals. The emergency weather sheltering plan was quickly adapted to comply with health and safety protocols of this new environment. And whereas the plan originally called for congregate sheltering hosted at local faith or nonprofit providers, we knew this wouldn't be an option at the time. We did explore many options and facilities that could accommodate the needs of those experiencing unsheltered homelessness, but ultimately the county, working with our emergency management department in the city, constructed a plan to shelter individuals in a local hotel. The project was approved by FEMA. Welcome House was our contracted operator, and we provided shelter for 47 unique clients for 902 bed nights from April 12th to May 22nd of 2020. Learning what we had from the COVID sheltering model, and it proved to be a success. Use of a trusted social services partner to provide and manage the project, and keeping communication lines open between interested parties were all critical factors in making that first sheltering project successful. Due to ongoing issues with COVID-19, we knew that our original emergency weather sheltering plan was not going to work for the same reasons that it didn't work in the spring of 2020. An RFP was again issued, and Welcome House was chosen to be our operator. The county at that time then developed an activation system for our program. Weekly, an internal team meets to review the forecast. Temperature, precipitation, and duration are primary factors for consideration. When these combine for poor weather outlooks, a recommendation is made to Judge Moore, and then a declaration of authorization is issued, and which triggers the plan. Welcome House, as our partner, has really refined and established a thorough intake process to make sure that the program is accessible to Boone County residents experiencing unsheltered homelessness. And these are two big factors: Boone County residents, unsheltered homelessness. A few shelter statistics for you. We have now had 3 successful winter weather sheltering seasons. Over these 3 winters, 210 activation nights have provided to approximately 289 individuals, including elderly and children. Program costs have grown as we refined the program with our operational partner, and additionally, some of our initial savings that you'll see in those first winters can be traced to lower hotel costs at the time, really the height of the pandemic, and then also a smaller program operations. Quick look at what our program participants look like for our winter sheltering programs. The average age of a participant is 45. Most households are adult only, but we have sheltered children and families, no individual single children, but children within the families. Year to year, we've only had a few who have accessed the shelter in a prior season. In the most recent season, our 22-23 winter sheltering season, only 19% qualified as chronically homeless. So this was really taken in by our partner there, Welcome House, in assessing whether they qualified as chronically homeless, which is defined as being homeless for at least 1 year or homeless on 4 separate occasions over 3 years. And that really models a national percentage of 19%. That's really closer to a national model for us. 43% reported having some kind of income. The program has also had a lot of positive outcomes I wanted to share with you tonight. Included in that, we've had individuals and the families accessing stabilizing housing after the program. There's been referrals to permanent supportive housing, substance use treatment facilities, other families, and we have had individuals admitted to nursing homes following the program. It may be of interest to you to understand where some of our folks that are accessing this program are found within our county. While there are certainly individuals experiencing homelessness throughout the county, I'm sure it's no surprise to this body here that there is a significant portion of our vulnerable population who live within the city limits of Florence. So you can see a quick breakdown of what that looks like. Okay, so moving forward, as the task force has proceeded through extensive data collection and has made some short-term recommendations, including this winter sheltering program, we have been charged now to look at sustainable long-term solutions to address the shortages identified through our process. Recognizing the magnitude of the attainable housing crisis within our region, the task force has focused its work more on the prevention of homelessness and emergency shelter bed deficit within the county. The task force continued to research best practices in the field of emergency shelter development and operation, engaged new local and community experts, and toured facilities within our region. I am pleased to share the task force recommendations here with you this evening. First, the task force recommends strengthening prevention and rapid rehousing resources to prevent homelessness when possible from occurring, and then to make it as brief as possible when it does occur. This is achieved through a continued partnership with our service providers, state agencies, the county, and possibly the city's own investment in these type of programs. Next, in developing a brick and mortar shelter, the task force recommends adopting a hybrid sheltering model. And what we mean by that is that primarily the shelter will provide non-congregant 24/7 sheltering with necessary wraparound services aimed at reestablishing permanent housing solutions for participants. The facility would include space for congregate sheltering also, to use primarily during our winter weather sheltering seasons. We've recognized the life-saving value the winter shelter has provided for these past 3 seasons, and understanding that some individuals may not be ready to access a full spectrum of services within the 24/7 non-congregate setting, continuing to make winter sheltering available is critical. Additionally, by providing access to workforce readiness, veteran services, financial assistance and education programming, access to mental health and substance use treatment, individuals will be more effectively and efficiently stabilized, and then with the goal of exiting from emergency sheltering programs sooner and preventing and reducing those chances of recidivism. We are pleased to share that we have engaged the design firm to assess the feasibility of these task force recommendations. Finally, our next steps. So our staff and the task force have done an immense work over the last 4 years. We have provided heavily researched best practice approaches to the issues of homelessness within the county. We'll finish our work on our feasibility study and bring those results to our elected bodies for further direction. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Laura. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Osborne?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Are we gonna get copies of this, outline what you just given us?
Yes, I'm happy to share that.
Okay. Now, one question. If I understood you, you said there's most 289 individuals that are seeking, housing somewhere.
Last winter, we had 289, or excuse me, I will double check my numbers, the 289 individuals who accessed the winter sheltering program.
Okay. Approximately how long do those 289 people stay in Boone County?
I don't have that number for you at this time. We can take a look at that and try to understand it a little bit better. Generally, what we have found is that folks who are experiencing homelessness in Boone County became homeless in Boone County. Folks that are here, they want to stay in their community, they want to access the resources that are here. Now, certainly there's going to be some transients, just as there is with any population. We can look into that further.
I got one question I hate to ask you, I really do.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this subject as long as the mayor is
Okay.
willing.
Okay, the question I have is this: do these individuals work during the daytime or nighttime and they want a place to live, or do they not work?
Yes, some of them do. It just depends. It's a diverse population. So the majority of the population who are accessing these programs do have employment. They probably had some kind of an economic emergency of some kind, just didn't have resources available and became unhoused. What these services and what these programs can do is then rehouse individuals so they continue to be parts of our society. That 19% that I referenced at the end there, that chronically homeless individual, those are most likely individuals who have additional challenges, most likely in mental health, substance use, some kind of physical disability that would really take additional lifelong supports.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Ms. Plyman, could you give me the definition of congregate versus non-congregate housing?
Of course. So what we think of congregate is going to be a room setting that there's no division between potentially the beds or the beds. It's more of a traditional room with the bed set up in that space. Non-congregate would be smaller rooms that are really more, well, that's really what we had to do non-congregate style during COVID, right, to prevent disease transmission. But it's also better for individuals who might be accessing that programming in 45 to 60 days, which is what typically individuals who are in shelter 24/7 would need before they can be rehoused.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Look, you mentioned that people that receive the emergency shelter have to be residents of Boone County. How do they go about proving that to this company?
So Welcome House uses its resources. We have contracted with hotels to operate the program for the last 3 years. Welcome House, before an individual comes to that hotel, they're going to assess whether that individual truly is unsheltered and if they're a Boone County resident. Now, the definition of resident is going to be that they're staying in Boone County at this time. We're not necessarily looking for their last permanent address, providing a piece of mail. That's a barrier that's going to be something that they would not be able to access that shelter at the time, and we think it's probably unreasonable at that piece. But we have had individuals who, they're staying in their car and they're parked at the Fort Mitchell Walmart, and unfortunately, if you're staying at that's Kenton County. And these funds that we've used to support these programs, I should have shared as well, are from the mental health and intellectual disability and aging funds, which are restricted for use for Boone County residents.
Do you have any recommendations for citizens that want to be involved in the solution?
Sure, we could certainly take a look at how, as we move forward, how that would look. We're really hoping to complete this feasibility study. Welcome House has been a fantastic partner with us, and I know that they are always willing to have partners come on board. So if they want to reach out to me, we could talk about how that looks.
Anyone else?
Did you mention the timing of the feasibility study, like when it's expected to be completed?
We hope to wrap up by the end of the year and have something complete. We're getting close, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Plyman, as a school principal, dealt with all types of this home situations. And of course, we always do a homeless count sometime during the school year. And there are different levels of homelessness, as you know. If you're sleeping on someone else's couch, for example, and you're a child or student, you're not out on the street, someone's taking you in, oftentimes a relative or a friend or a neighbor, but for statistical purposes, that person's homeless. And there are different phases of that. You know, people might be living with other people for a period of time as they reposition their life in some fashion. So these are the numbers that you see, but there's a lot of, what I call it, hidden homelessness that people are going through from time to time. And so it's just not people that have no home, period. They have different challenges.
I would agree with that completely, and I think that's what you see when our unsheltered homeless, the sheltered homeless count there is really, that's why children is a much larger population in our shelter count, and I think Boone County Schools will say by the end of the year, they've identified anywhere between 300 to 400 children who are homeless, experiencing that couch surfing definition of homelessness.
Housing insecure.
Yes, and in those instances, I think that we really, if we're strengthening those prevention funds, that perhaps we can remedy that a little bit easier too, so that emergency utility, emergency rental assistance, that maybe would be able to step in case of an economic emergency, that we might be able to prevent it in the first place.
I
just want to say thank you. I know you all have worked so hard on this for the last several years, and it's been a big part of your life. It was a tall task when you got started with it, and I just congratulate you all for all the hard work that you put into it, and I think we're going to see some excellent results come from this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Next item is ordinance 028-2023. It's an ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance number 0207 in chapter 119 of the City of Florence, Kentucky Code of Ordinances, amending licensing requirements and regulations for sexually oriented businesses and employees within the City of Florence, Kentucky. The purpose of this ordinance is to repeal and replace ordinance number 0207 in chapter 119 of the Code of Ordinances to reflect recent federal decisions regarding sexually oriented businesses. The full text of ordinance 028-2023, including its exhibits, is available in the office of the City Clerk of the City of Florence, Kentucky, 8100 Ewing Boulevard, Florence, Kentucky, during regular office hours. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Carroll?
Second.
Second, Mr. Osborne. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Ms. Chambers?
No.
Mr. Wynn?
Yes.
Ms. Kemper?
Yes.
Ms. Wingo?
Yes.
Mr. Osborne?
Yes.
Mayor, motion passes 5-1.
Thank you. Next is the second reading of ordinance 029-2023. It is an ordinance providing the creation of the Florence Veterans Commission. The purpose of this ordinance is to create a Veterans Commission, thereby creating a support system, community recognition, resources, and comprehensive community relations for veterans and those who have served this nation. The Veterans Commission shall act as an advisory body to the mayor regarding military veterans programs, veterans organizations, and veteran-related activities. The full text of ordinance 029-2023, including its exhibits, is available for examination in the office of the City Clerk of the City of Florence, Kentucky, 8100 Ewing Boulevard, Florence, Kentucky, during regular office hours. Is there a motion to approve?
I am most happy to say yes.
Mr. Osborne and Mr. Wynn, any other discussion? I would just note that I do thank David for getting the ball rolling on this as a veteran himself.
Right.
Anything that he can call attention to veterans is something that he's passionate about. And he is an ambassador, I think, for the city. He meets a lot of people out at the airport in his job, still works, and he passes along tokens of appreciation from the city and the veterans. And he
Thank
wanted
you.
to know how we could do that here in the city, and I felt this was a great way to do that.
May I say something?
Absolutely.
We have different committees in this city over the years and years, and we still do. But this veteran committee, we're out here to help the veterans, and we want them to be a part of the city in different events like ambassadors. And you would be surprised, the little coin that we get for a veteran to pass them out, they get very emotional. They just want somebody to talk to because of the problems they're having in the past, so forth and so on. So I'm really honored to be on the board with them and with the people at the city that's gonna support this project as well as the public. Thank you.
Mayor, while we're talking about veterans and such, we have Veterans Day coming up.
Yes.
I know you're going to be mentioning it later on, but this might be an appropriate time also to talk about our Veterans Program coming up this Saturday.
So we have two programs going on right now. One is the Witness Tree event that is led by Florence Christian Church. They are having a prayer and poem type service every morning at 8 a.m. from November 1st through the 11th. So we have a few days left where you can go and participate in that. And really it is a memorial to the crises that our veterans face when they are finished with their service. And so many times their mental health issues arise from their service, and there are 22 servicemen and women per day that commit suicide. And so we hang 22 dog tags in a tree every day from November 1st to November 11th to commemorate their sacrifice. So that is one event. And then we will have a little more upbeat and celebratory event on Saturday at 2 o'clock. It is our Veterans Day program, and we will have great music. We'll have great speakers, and we will be extending those tokens of appreciation to veterans, any veterans who come, a little note of thanks and a token from us, from the city.
Of course, we want all citizens to come out and participate and be a part of it Saturday afternoon.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second, and we have any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Chambers,
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen,
Yes.
Ms. Kemper,
Yes.
Ms. Wingo,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne,
Yes?
Mayor, motion passes 6-0.
All right, congratulations to the veterans. Ms. Wingo, if you would leave the room, please, at this time. Ms. Wingo has a conflict of interest with regard to the next item on the agenda. It is ordinance 030-2023, and she does have an adjoining property to this property that is the subject of this ordinance. So we've asked her to leave. And I will read the ordinance for you. An ordinance adopting and approving a zoning map amendment from agricultural estate A2 to suburban residential 1, SR1, for the approximate 3.9 acre site located at 8269 Pleasant Valley Road, including the adjoining parcel having a parcel identification number, PIDN, of 062.00-00-008.25, Florence, Kentucky, to allow for future subdivision of the property into smaller residential lots. Dan Hughes. The ordinance adopts and approves the zoning map amendment for agricultural estate A2 to suburban residential 1, SR1, for an approximate 3.9 acre site located at 8269 Pleasant Valley Road, including the adjoining parcel having a parcel identification number of 062.00-00-008.25, Florence, Kentucky, to allow for future subdivision of the property into smaller residential lots. The full text of ordinance 030-2023, including its exhibits, is available for examination in the office of the city clerk of the city of Florence, Kentucky, the Florence Government Center, 8100 Ewing Boulevard, during regular office hours. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Nguyen? Second, Mr. Carroll. Ms. Wingo is typically on our planning and zoning committee that would review such requests. She did recuse herself. At the last meeting, we did appoint Mr. Carroll
to serve on the Planning and Zoning Committee. The Planning and Zoning Committee is not the same thing as the Planning Commission. It is just a number of 2 council members who review planning and zoning requests that come from the Planning Commission, and they make a recommendation to council. Would you Gary, would you like to speak on this, or would you like Mr. Hunt to handle it, or?
I can go ahead. I just know that we reviewed their recommendation and we agreed with their conditions, and we added 1 to that. And that's basically where we're at with it. Everybody's in agreement with it. Go ahead, Josh.
Yep, so on its face, it's a fairly simple request. It's a change in zoning, we deal with them all the time. I think where this one got a little lost is we typically deal with developers or people that have civil engineers engaged, and there's a full set of plans. This was kind of done on the back of a napkin. And with that, lack of detail, right, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And that caused some concern to the residents who reside back in Valley View. And if you read in your packets, there was probably 16 to 18 comments from residents back in there concerned about this request. So, very simply, Zone A2 wants to change it to SR1. When you do that, when you change something in zoning, there's a lot of factors you got to keep in play, but particularly for this one, what the concern was with dwelling units. You can have 4 additional dwelling units per acre when you go to an SR1 zone. So if you're familiar with the area, this is the part of Florence where it's more large rural estates, I guess is the best way to put it. One of the concerns that was voiced from the residents was that we did not want high density. So they didn't want 8 little single family houses or townhomes crammed up on the property line. Pretty valid concern, we held the same concern. The other concern about it is on the original plan, and there's no drawing indicating this, but they wanted the connection, the owner proposed the connection of a driveway that connected to Valley View behind his pool. That was not with the best interest of the citizens, so ultimately we weren't on board with that either. So after going through Boone County Planning Commission's process, what was agreed to was that he would reduce the density to 1 dwelling unit per acre. So he's going to subdivide. I think I do have a map of that. So this is a plat. That's probably a 2-scale drawing. And you can see there's 2 areas that are identified as 1-acre lots. On each of those 1-acre lots, they will be allowed to build a single-family home. So decreasing the density, the access to those lots will come off of his existing driveway off of Pleasant Valley, so there will be no more or additional curb cuts off Pleasant Valley. So it's kind of like a little flag lot deal. With that has pretty much all the comments that were received from the residents back in Valley View. They were fine with it. A few of them came to our last Florence P&Z meeting. We talked to them afterwards. They were 100% on board with I guess where we're at with this now. Seeing that there was 2 additional conditions that the city has proposed, the Florence P&Z committee wanted on here. The first one is as it relates to sanitary sewer. There is currently no public sewer main that goes through these lots' backyards. There is a private sewer lane from Mr. Hughes' house that is there that taps into the public sewer, but you cannot connect onto that with other houses. That's considered a joint lateral when it's against our sanitary sewer regulations. So he had to do one of 2 things. He had to get an easement and be able to extend basically either a private or public sewer line onto his property to feed those houses. That's kind of up in the air yet. I know Mr. Hughes, who's here, was able to get permission from one of the property owners to give the city whatever easement is necessary in order to construct his house. Now, will it be a public main extension or will it be a private line? We'll determine that down the road, but we have a condition as such to make sure that, it adequately meets our sanitary sewer regulations. Other thing, and I really don't foresee this being an issue, but we went ahead and put a condition on this that the city of Florence reserves the right to evaluate any plat amendments, any building plan submittals. Basically, we're going to look at these houses when they're submitted and we'll have the final say. So These are gonna be very expensive lots if he does choose to sell them. I think nothing but probably really higher end type homes, with good high-end finishes. But all in all, after we went through it, I think everybody back there that originally had concerns with the project, up into including the city, because we did have concerns, everything's been met. We're good to go, no need for additional public hearing, and the conditions as I described them.
All right, any other, all right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Chambers,
Yes.
Mr. Wynn,
Yes.
Ms. Kemper,
Yes.
Ms. Wingo. Oh. Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mayor, motion passes 5-0.
Chief, can we get Mr. Wingo? Wrong chair, wrong. Ms. Wingo. Unless you want to be the police chief. I don't know anybody that would want to be the police. You took the wrong note for that.
Oh,
It's an empty chair. This is sorry. That's all I read. All right, next item is municipal order MO 18-2023. A municipal order approving the appointment of Jenny Kelly Huff as the Florence appointment to the Airport Noise Abatement Committee for 2-year term. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Wynn,
Second.
second Ms. Wingo, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Chambers,
Yes.
Mr. Wynn,
Yes.
Ms. Kemper,
Yes.
Ms. Wingo,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne.
Yes.
Mayor, motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next is municipal order MO 19-2023. A municipal order approving Lisa Wilson Plager as a Florence appointee to the Airport Noise Abatement Committee for a 2-year term. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Wingo,
Second.
second Mr. Carroll. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Chambers,
Yes.
Mr. Wynn,
Yes.
Ms. Kemper,
Yes.
Ms. Wingo,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne.
Yes.
Mayor, motion passes 6-0.
Next item is municipal order MO 2023. Municipal order approving the reappointment of Teresa Kraft as a Florence appointee to the Airport Noise Abatement Committee for a 2-year term. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Osborne and second by Mr. Carroll. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Chambers,
Yes.
Mr. Wynn,
Yes.
Ms. Kemper,
Yes.
Ms. Wingo,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne.
Yes.
Mayor, motion passes 6-0.
Next is a municipal order MO 21-2023, a municipal order approving the reappointment of Gary Wynn to the Board of Directors of the Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana Regional Council of Governments. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Wingo?
Second.
Second, Mr. Osborne. I just would clarify that this is the body that deals with the federal transportation grants. I don't know if Mr. Hall would explain it any differently, so it is a regional council, and we are required to have a seat on the board, so. As from, I guess it could be elected official, but it could be anyone, correct? All right, any discussion?
Mayor, if I could, before we vote on this particular one, I'd like to comment not only on Mr. Wynn, but the other 3 people that are on the Airport Noise Abatement Board. These are positions that are voluntary. People who do this step forward to do it, and you want to find people that have a certain amount of expertise in this area. If you lived here all your life, you know that we have issues with the noise abatement, with noise from the airport. And this particular committee works with the airport along with the other committees like this to keep the noise as low as it can be and still stay in business out there.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Ms. Chambers,
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen, Ms. Kemper,
Yes.
Ms. Wingo,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne.
Yes.
Mayor, motion passes 5-0.
And Mr. Nguyen did not vote. All right, next item, and he could not vote on that, is the mayor's report. Just a couple of things, I got a long mayor's report tonight, so bear with me. The leaf collection, it runs through December 21st, so every street, residential street will be hit 3 times, correct? And so sometimes you'll see a posting in your neighborhood. If your leaves haven't fell yet, there probably might be another chance to get your leaves picked up, so please rake them to the curb, not into the street, and we'll be happy to pick them up. Our website, florence-ky.gov, has a complete street list. The Witness Tree event we talked about earlier, it's 8 o'clock. I'll be there tomorrow morning, and we just have a few days left of that event. Our annual Veterans Day program, again, will be held Saturday, November 11th at 2 p.m. downstairs in our community rooms. The Honor Run Half Marathon is always a big event in the city. It will be held this Sunday, November 12th. They start early, like 7 a.m., 6:45. There will be lots of road closures, so we try to do it early on a Sunday where there's the least amount of traffic, but it is such an important event. It raises money for Honor Flight to send our veterans to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials. So it's just really something near and dear to the city of Florence's heart, and that's why we participated in it. It's very labor intensive for our department, but we wouldn't have it any other way. City of Florence is collecting non-perishable food items to benefit the Boone County Family Resource Centers for the elementary schools in Florence through November 17th. You may drop off the non-perishable items in the Florence Government Center lobby. There is a barrel right out front. Florence Police Department is participating in their 6th annual No Shave November benefit. Getting a little going there. All proceeds from funds collected will benefit the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Cancer Unit. So each participating officer will donate at least $25 to this worthy cause, and then we'll set a goal of $2,500 for Children's Hospital if you'd like to donate. I'm sure the police will hook you up. And it is on the City of Florence Facebook page, the Police Department's Facebook page. We will be hosting our first ever City of Florence Children's Holiday Art Display, and the contest is open to young artists aged 12 and under. You can print off one of our coloring pages on our website, or you can pick one up in the admin department. All entries must be turned in by 5 p.m. on November 27th, and the winner will be notified on Monday, December 4th at the holiday tree lighting on December 5th. It will be noted on December 4th and announced at the tree lighting on December 5th. The annual holiday tree lighting, speaking of that, and Winter Wonderland Village event will be held indoors this year here at the Government Center on Tuesday, December 5th. And we will have some activities on both the first and the lower level. Ornaments will be used to decorate the tree. It'll be made by the children of the community, and we would love for people to participate, especially if you have little ones who want to try out some arts and crafts skills. So we will provide those ornaments for you to decorate, and you can pick those up in the administration department. In addition to the traditional tree lighting and musical presentations, there will be a Winter Wonderland Village with elf craft stations, a North Pole mailbox, hot chocolate bar, live music, visits and photos with Santa, and story time with Mrs. Claus. Train display that is incredible, and incredible light displays from our public services department, so you don't want to miss that event. We do need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.8101B, acquisition, sale of real property, where publicity would be likely to affect the value of property to be acquired for public use or to be sold by the city, and pursuant to KRS 61.8101C, litigation proposed or pending against or on behalf of the city. Do I have a motion? Mr. Nguyen?
Second.
Ms. Wingo? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We will adjourn to the caucus room for closed session, and we will return here, but do not anticipate any further business taking place.
No, maybe a cherry Coke or two.